Greetings Battle Brothers, welcome to the weekly tactics video. It's official, we're only 1 week away from the new Space Marine Codex. Pre-orders go live tomorrow with a release the week after, so I thought this would be a great time now to share my current 9th edition, 2000 points, Blood Angels army list. We'll go over every unit choice, we'll talk about strengths and synergies, we'll talk about tactics, stratagems, and make sure you stay to the end, because if you learn all these strategies, you should be able to dominate your opponent and essentially annihilate their armies. If we're just meeting, I'm John, the Blood Angels commander, finally got the t-shirt. Thanks so much for joining me this week, and if you want regular Blood Angels news right in your YouTube homepage, then find and hit that red subscribe button now. We'll start by breaking down each unit within the full 2000 point list so you get a sort of feel for what the list is, and then we'll go into each unit and we'll talk about the stratagem, psychic powers, etc. to really absolutely maximise your potential with each of the choices. So as mentioned, this is a 2000 point army list, and this list is actually a single battalion detachment, so you would start with 12 CP, but we have taken one additional Relic of Baal, so this list is going to start you with 11, and then throughout the game with a +1 per turn, so you can have 16 CP to play with this list. So for HQ, we have Commander Dante, we have Chief Librarian Mephiston, and we have Astaroth. For troops, we have 2 regular Intercessor squads, sergeants with chain swords, the rest with stalker bolt rifles. We have 2 Assault Intercessor squads, just the standard loadout in here, heavy bolt pistols and chain swords. For elites, we have a Judicar, then we have 2 Sanguinary Ancients. One with Icon of the Ancient, we'll say that's our additional relic, and another with the Standard of Sacrifice, we'll say that's a regular relic. They will both be wielding axes, and one of them will be wielding an Infernal Pistol. We'll then have a 7-man Sanguinary Guard. I guess the weapon loadouts here are very much up to you, but the one I've been running is going to have 3 axes, 2 swords, 2 power fists, and then a couple of Infernal Pistols mixed in, but you can mix and match this however you like. For heavy support, we have the Contemptor Mortis Dreadnought with 2 twin-link las cannons, and then the other support choice is our Relic Leviathan Dreadnought with the Storm Cannon array, with the Leviathan Siege Claw, with 2 heavy flamers, and the Melt-A-Gun built into this Siege Claw. Then finally, we have the dedicated transport. It's the Impulsor, and it has the Storm Bolter, the Heavy Stubber, and the Shield Dome. All this comes in at exactly 1999 points, and that is our list. So obviously a few things may change with the new codex, but right now I think this is a super strong list. I'm going to tell you exactly why, and remember we're going to start with 11 CP, so we have a lot to play with this list. So as of 9th edition, Commander Dante's only 15 more points with a Smash Captain. Now Smash Captains are changing with the Storm Shields, so they're going to be very similar, but I think Dante offers some unique advantages here. The Warlord trait, Heroic Bearing, means that if he's with this big group of Sanguinary Guard, then they're completely immune to morale. So think of Dante as leading like a flying attack wing across the battlefield, jumping forward absolutely as far as they can in the first turn, potentially advancing as well in turn 1, remember we get +1 to advance, and trying to get in behind cover deep across the battlefield. So with this flying attack wing, I'd take Astaroth and I'd take both banner bearers, and I'd position the Sanguinary Guard to basically essentially be a screen for shooting so that your main characters and the Sanguinary Ancients can't be shot. Then that gives everything in that bubble the 5+ Feel No Pain. Remember, they've jumped forward somewhere between 13 and 19 inches in the first turn, hopefully somewhere safe and into cover. Then the second turn, you move your 12 again forward. That's you now somewhere between like 25 and maybe like 30 forward, so you've almost guaranteed a turn 2 charge against anything in the opponent's army, and you're going to get to reroll those charges as well because you've got your banner bearer with the Icon of the Ancient, so that lets you just reroll all charges within 3 inches of him. So again, strategic placement of these units, and then that's a really powerful, it's not an alpha strike, but it's as close as we can get, like a close combat alpha strike. Now advancing in turn 1 for your Sanguinary Guard, they only shoot 12 inches, so it's probably not a big deal. Dante's obviously got the Infernal Pistol, we had another couple of Infernal Pistols in the group. Astaroth doesn't even have a gun, I think, he just has grenades. So you lose nothing, and you're just getting very deep into the battlefield. Really interesting, and really kind of puts the fear into some opponents, because that bubble with Dante's rerolls for the hits, and then being close to the banners gives you a reroll on ones on your wounds in the fight phase. Remember, you still got your +1 to wound roll from Red Thirst, so you're really going to be doing a lot of hits and a lot of wounds with this flying attack going very deadly and yeah, very purposefully aggressive. Like, that is their strategy, to get aggressively across the board as early as possible. It's worth saying you could easily spend 1 CP for Red Rampage for Dante or Astaroth in this group to really do a little bit more damage when you do, but essentially this will let you delete some enemy units off the board in turn 2. It'll be very devastating, and you can almost kill anything that you end up in combat with. So within this bubble of gold we have Astaroth, who has his mantra of strength to give him +1 strength, +1 attack, +1 damage, and his axe is already strength 6, so this essentially gives it a strength 7, and then with a +1 to wound, he's going to be wounding a lot of things in the game on like 2s or 3s. He's going to be re-rolling 1s from his banner bearers, and remember, a wound roll from Astaroth of 5+ is actually a flat 3 damage, so with mantra of strength it's a 4 damage. So it's really just, he's kind of like a glass cannon, really. He's just going to come in and he can absolutely annihilate something. Astaroth can also take 2 litanies, so we can have the Blood Angels litany, which gives us a flat -4 AP, but I think it's much more valuable to just take the Canticle of Hate. So the Canticle of Hate changes your +1 to charging to +2 because it doesn't stack, so now you have +2 in charges. But what's really interesting is with the Canticle of Hate, you get a 6-inch pile-in move and a 6-inch consolidate. So if you do get into something turn 2, if they're not really spaced out, you could potentially consolidate right into another group. Yeah, you have to take the hits from that other group, but could prevent them shooting you next turn, and then you do get to fight first in the opponent's turn. So that's a big change in that, like, if you do consolidate into something, it's not like you're going to get hit twice before you get hit back. You're only going to get hit once now, and then you'd get to attack. So basically this bubble is going to be as aggressive as you can, fly it down one wing like I said, and then just focus on taking out some sort of like squishy innards of your enemy's army. So with Astaroth, if you do cast your Canticle of Hate, you can then redeploy him using upon Wings of Fire, and if you do that, you can almost move him somewhere else in the battlefield. That area of the battlefield, or that unit that's within 6 of him, now would get +2 to charge, so you could almost guarantee a charge somewhere else that you needed. And I don't know if you 100% need Astaroth in that bubble. Like we said, he's a bit of a glass cannon, but you could use him as like a deep strike counter, so upon Wings of Fire him back somewhere on your battlefield and take out something that's deep striked against you. I think Astaroth is really versatile like this. So Mephiston rounds out sort of our 3 HQ choices, which are arguably some of the most iconic Blood Angels HQ choices. It's kind of ironic, but yeah, I did a video on Mephiston a few weeks back, so if you want to know all the strategies for him, that's what you want to check out. I'll put a card here. But for this strategy, Mephiston is going to start in the Impulsor. So in the Impulsor with Mephiston is a 5-man assault squad. This does mean if a dreaded 1 is rolled when the Impulsor, if it gets destroyed, then we won't be sacrificing Mephiston, we can sacrifice an assault troop, and they're kind of there just to back him up. And then for Mephiston's psychic powers, we're going to take Quickening, we're going to take Unleash Rage, and we're going to take Wings of Sanguinius. So probably on the other flank, I mean it could be the same flank as you had your attack wing, but maybe another flank, we're going to move the Impulsor in turn 1 as far forward as it'll go. That's 14. We're going to roll d6 and add 1 because we're a Blood Angel, so we're going to potentially move them, end up moving 15 to 21. Try and get it on an objective in the middle of the battlefield, so that you've got that objective at the beginning of your second turn. But essentially we just need to get that Impulsor as far forward as it possibly can do. So this means on turn 2, Mephiston is going to exit that Impulsor within 3. So if we talk about the Impulsor moved a minimum of 16 last turn, he's now 19 forward. We're then going to try and cast Quickening. If Quickening fails, we kind of just have to deal with it, right? We do not want to use a command reroll on Quickening because we want to cast Wings of Sanguinius. So you exit within 3, then you move your 7 forward. So we're kind of like 30 inches forward already at this point. Now, if Wings of Sanguinius goes off, we can move another 12 and we can fly. So fly forward again. So we've gone forward sort of like 42 inches. And now with Wings active, we get to reroll our charges. So we can sort of make like a 5-inch, 6-inch charge almost guaranteed. We could even go for a 10-inch, maybe. I mean, it's a bit lower percentile. I would say like aim for like a 5 or a 6. And then if you did get Quickening off, remember you get to add 3 to your charge roll, so you would actually add 4 because of the Red Thirst. So now at that point, even if you Snake Eyes, you're on 6 for your charge. So It's a huge range of Mephiston has basically in turn 2. You can get him in combat with just about anything. You could pay Red Rampage if you didn't feel like you needed it on Dante. You could pay your 3 CP to fight again. But Mephiston can essentially jump in with almost anything, probably with like between, I think it's like 7 and 10 attacks at that point. I know you can get up to 13 attacks. I guess if you do Red Rampage and get 3, and if you do Quickening and get 3, and then you have the 2 from Savage Echoes and Red Thirst, but you're probably not going to have all that, but that is the potential you can get. And then pay to fight again, obviously hitting on 2s. Usually Mephiston's wounding on 2s as well because he's strength 10, so you can just cannonball into just about anything really far forward in the turn 2. So with Dante's attack winning, Mephiston's attack winning, you're tying up like key characters and or deleting them off the board in turn 2. At this point, it's worth noting though, if they do kill Mephiston, you could pay 2 CP to only in death does duty end. It really depends what you're running him into. I've had him run into Leviathan Dreadnoughts, and he actually killed the Leviathan Dreadnought, a double Storm Cannon one. I believe it even managed to shoot him, and he survived it. So Mephiston's 170 points, a double Storm Cannon Leviathan's 350 points, so basically wipe out something twice as expensive as him. And the only reason Mephiston died actually in that battle was because the damn Leviathan exploded and gave him mortal wounds, which didn't save, but that's another story. So we'll move straight on to the troop choices. We're going to have 2 squads of regular intercessors. These guys are going to sit ideally in our own deployment zone on objectives, basically in cover, so they're a 2-up save rather than a 3-up save. They're just going to take pot shots 36 inches with their Stalker bolt rifles, ideally never moving so you don't take the -1 to shoot, and they're just going to sit there probably for the entire game. Maybe move them up if you need them, but yeah, their main job of these regular intercessors is to hold objectives and potentially do some screening against some deep striking. So for the 2 assault intercessors, we already talked about one squad and how they're in the Impulsor with Mephiston. So I guess after that Impulsor had moved in the first turn, you really have a choice there. Do you need to take the assault intercessors out, or do you move the Impulsor far forward again and then bring them out? Bear in mind, when Mephiston exits, he's probably likely going to, like, I don't know, jump away, and then, you know, like, the assault guys won't be able to keep up with him. However, if the Impulsor does move forward, it's another 14 and potentially even advances again, then the assault guys could jump out and almost catch up with Mephiston, and then sort of give him some backup, some screening, whatever you want to call it. So that is what one assault intercessor squad is doing. And then the other squad is again deployed on a flank, and I think what you'll find is in most games of 9th edition there's between 4 and 6 objectives on the board, right? On the maps with 6 objectives there are definitely some that are not like heavily contested by either player. There'll be like one squad of Marines, or there'll be a squad of troops basically on these objectives. Now I think troops on troops is usually like kind of a stalemate, but assault intercessors have a slight edge, I think, especially if you get them into hand-to-hand combat, right? Assault intercessors get like 21 attacks in turn 1 and 2, and then 26 attacks, and obviously with a +1 to wound from the Red Thirst. The second squad of intercessors will try and move around the battlefield, kind of maybe sneakily a little bit, trying to stay within cover or whatnot, and try and get to one of these objectives that isn't like heavily fortified. Because if they can meet another squad of troops on that objective, the chances are they can probably take it for you. So that is what Assault Intercessor Squad number 2 is doing. Hey, and if it's a battle that has actually, I've played the map where there's 3 objectives within your deployment zone, then use that Assault Intercessor Squad and pick Raise the Banners, and have your 2 regular Intercessors and Assault Intercessors all raise a banner in first turn, and then probably at that point your Assault Intercessors can sit on the objective, or they can move out. You know, you already hold 2 from your other Intercessors. Maybe, you know, like we're pushing forward so hard that you're almost going to take at least 1 from the enemy, so I don't know if they need to sit there anymore in your deployment zone. They could, but that's totally up to you. Hey, if you're getting value out of this video, please hit the like button, same as you would smash like a heretic in the face with a chainsword. If we move on to elites now, we kind of already talked a little bit about the Sanguinary Guard and the 2 Ancients and how they're with Dante and they're moving forward and they're protecting him. I guess it's worth noting that even if Dante's Chapter Master reroll got changed, then Sanguinary Guard and the Ancients both have a rule where if they're within 6 of the Warlord, they reroll to hit. So nothing actually changes for those guys. What is a little bit questionable, I guess, with the Sanguinary Guard is right now they have a 2+ save. Well, a lot of weapons are getting buffed right now. Meltas are getting buffed. Devastator Doctrine is obviously a thing, or Space Marine Doctrines in general. So their 2+ armor save that used to be really killer, I would say is a little bit weak now. They actually kind of suffer from not having an invulnerable save. So in that turn 1, you really want to try and make sure your Sanguinary Guard are in cover, so they have like a 1-up save. So if they do get hit by like big minus AP weapons, they can save a little bit more reliably. I think that's actually quite a critical part of making this strategy work, giving them that 1-up save and basically getting them to weather wounds with a 5+ feel no pain from the banner, if the enemy can see them. If you manage to get them fully in cover or obscured and the enemy can't see them, then that's great, but that doesn't always happen. There might be 1 or 2 out with the cover that they can still shoot at, something like that. What's going to be really interesting when the new Codex drops just next week, as we talked about it, is Vanguard veterans may end up with the same 2+ save due to them being having a Storm Shield, and then they'll have a 4+ invulnerable save, and they'll still get the same feel no pain. All they'll lose is the rerolls to hit, and they still won't take any leadership if they're within 6 inches of Dante. So Vanguard veterans might be the way forward. Time will tell. We'll know very soon, and I will fill you in on that on this channel. Maybe we'll do a video where we compare Sanguinary Guard and Vanguard veterans once the 2 new codexes drop, or the codex and the supplement. Now next up, if we're still in the elites, we're looking at the Judicar. Now this guy gets picked in just about every single list that I make. I just think his Tempora Mortis ability, making a single enemy fight last in the close combat phase, is so valuable. Like, it can be a nightmare to deliver the Judicar where you want him to be on the battlefield, but if you manage to deliver him well, or you manage to position him well, then it's really, there's no question, it's one of the most powerful close combat abilities that's in the game as far as I'm concerned. My experience with the Judicar though is like, he does die fairly easily, so it could be worth making him a hero of the chapter, giving him a Gift of Foresight, or another interesting choice would be to give him Selfless Valor to basically increase his heroic intervention to 6 inches, meaning that he can get within 6 of an enemy, and then obviously he can pick someone within 6 at the beginning of the fight phase to fight last. So he can heroically intervene 6, and then the person he heroically intervened with be like, no, excuse me, you need to fight last. The Judicar only has a 3+ save, and he only has 3+ ballistic skill. His pistol is a joke, it doesn't really do anything, but his sword in close combat, that's another story. Hitting on 2s, strength 7 with her +1 to wound, you're usually wounding on very low 2s or 3s, and then 6s from the sword or mortal wounds. The sword's a flat 2 damage a time, so he does do a fair amount of damage in close combat. It's all about protecting him and getting him exactly where you need him to be. Well, my answer to get him where you need to be is very simple. He follows the Relic Leviathan Dreadnought around like he's its puppy dog. He's on the heels of that model the entire game, and in some ways it's one of the most brutal combos I've ever seen, in that nothing or no single unit will ever get to attack the Relic Leviathan first. If you have a player that plays Sister of Battles in your in your circle of friends, then you'll know how devastating the Repentia are. I had a Repentia squad charge the Leviathan. We paid 1 CP to Overwatch. The Leviathan, obviously, with the current armaments and the heavy flamers, took out about half the squad. Then the Sisters of Battle joined the fight. The Leviathan killed like another 4 of them, and then the Judicar had already said to them, no, you need to fight last. So he heroically intervened, squad wiped, no damage. It was glorious. We're about to move on to heavy support, so we'll see more of the Relic Leviathan here in just a second. So for heavy support, we have the 2 Dreadnoughts. The Contemptor Mortis Dreadnought is the first one, and it comes armed with 2 twin-link las cannons. Deploying this Dreadnought correctly is key. Deploy him in cover. He has a 9-inch move. He'll usually be able to move out and shoot. He takes no minus for moving and shooting anymore. He's hitting on 2s, so that's 4 las cannon shots on 2s. If you pick other high priority targets, potentially, and you keep him alive, or you use Duty Eternal on him and position him wisely, you're going to get 20 las cannon shots over the course of a battle. I've definitely been at the end of a battle and never had this guy take a wound, and he's just pumped out 20 las cannon shots throughout the battle, hitting on 2s obviously, and then wounding most things on 2s or 3s. He's very strong, very reliable, really an all-round good choice. Sometimes as well, depending on his position, you can pay the Wisdom of the Ancient for the 6-inch bubble of reroll 1s, especially with his las cannons. It's like, it depends on what else is around there, but that can be a very valuable 1 CP strat. And then as he's a Blood Angel, this guy's no chump in close combat either. I mean, like, it's the same thing. You've got 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, and then he is strength 7, so again, you're going to wound most things in the game, 2s, 3s. So if there's if something deep strikes into your deployment zone and tries to charge you, you can do some kills and you can do some wounds, and then obviously in your turn you can fire off your 4 las cannons into close combat. So he can sit in your own objectives within your deployment zone and really be quite a powerful backline support. I really like this pick. I think it's really solid. I think Devastator squads might make a return when 2 wounds come, but for now the Relic Contemptor fills the role perfectly. Now let's talk about one of my favourites, the Relic Leviathan Dreadnought. This guy will be MVP in so many of your battles. He's so hard to wound with his toughness 8 and his 2+4+ save, and with the Judicar behind him, I don't want to say he's invincible in close combat, but basically what you're saying is if somebody wants to close combat him, they have to survive 5 or 6 attacks with his claw first, 5 in turn 1 and 2, and let's be real, he only moves 8, so you're not really going to do too much fighting in turn 1 and 2 with that claw. So when people do get into combat with him in turn 3, the claw is now going to be 6 attacks, hitting on 2s, you can pay 1 CP again to reroll your 1s if you really want, and then once you've hit, you're pretty much going to wound everything in the game in 2s, because it's a strength 16 claw and we get +1 to wound on that as well. So it's kind of ridiculous. It would need to be toughness 15 or something for it to not be a 2+ to wound. And then if it's infantry, you reroll your failed wounds anyway. So against infantry characters, he's just going to destroy them. And then he does a good job against vehicles and armour as well. And obviously, it's a flat 3 damage a time. I see this guy doing 12 wounds reliably, 15 sometimes, 18. It's really, really strong, the claw. So the claw is also AP -4 once we get into turn 3. And if somehow whoever charged him did survive, then guess what? His puppy dog, the Judicar, is literally right there. If you didn't take Selfless Valor, you can play Unbridled Ardor to pay the 1 CP to the 6-inch Heroic Intervention. So then he will join the battle, and obviously he'll make the enemy fight last, and it's key where his positioning is, but you know, like, you're talking 5 attacks again. I think it's 6 attacks once you hit turn 3 with his sword. Yeah, these two guys wandering around the battlefield, pretty much anything they come into contact with is dying, and if I think for any reasonable doubt that they're going to try and take down the Leviathan, then Duty Eternal is like #1 priority on this. I will even use CP to reroll his armor saves, because at 4+, it's like a 50-50 chance to keep saving. Do everything you can to keep this guy as healthy, and as it'll be absolutely worth it. Even in the end game when he's profiled, even at his worst profile, he's still hitting 50% of the time, and yeah, you can always pay that 1 CP to reroll 1s if you need to. It's worth noting as well, I mean, we're just talking close combat. For shooting, the Leviathan will still do some damage. You know, 10 Storm Cannon shots, which is strength 7, 2 damage a hit. So potentially you can do, like, I don't know, easily wipe out a squad of 3+ save troops. Can also do some damage against armor. He has that Melt-A-Gun, which will hit on 2s. So he can, you know, he can essentially up close, because you want him up close anyway. So up close you can shoot the Melt-A-Gun into a tank, maybe do an extra 6 damage or something, and then the 2 heavy flamers sort of protect him from too much in Overwatch. And also, again, you'll be up close anyway, so you're definitely going to be firing off those heavy flamers. I think with the new codex, the heavy flamers are going to be 12 inches, so this makes him just a little bit stronger as well. If you did have some points left over, you could take some Hunter Killer missiles on the Leviathan. He's allowed to have 3. Again, they're getting made better, strength 10. So there's definitely some options there as we move forward. I think as the Leviathan moves forward, the Judicar, even if he draws a lot of fire in turn 1, I think it's going to be very difficult for the enemy to bring him down with the toughness 8 and the 4+ invulnerable save and the Duty Eternal. And I think if they're focusing all the things on the Leviathan's not going to be the biggest threat in turn 1, right? Because he's still going to be 20 odd inches from the enemy. He needs another turn or 2 to move forward. Like I said, realistically, you're probably only going to be able to charge with Leviathan once we hit turn 3. So with this fast attack winning of Dante and his golden troop, and then your assault intercessors and the impulsor moving up as well, it's going to be kind of hard. The enemy's going to have to figure out where they're focusing the fire, and it's very much in their face very quickly. So if they've got anything that needs protected or is certainly a little bit squishier in their army in the middle, this list is going to be very strong against that. So yeah, then we want to talk about our dedicated transport. We kind of talked about it already. I mean, I guess the only thing to be said with the impulsor is, after that first couple of turns where it's delivered Mephiston, it's delivered the Assault Marines, there's not a huge amount that it can still do. It's very mobile, obviously, right? And I suppose if the enemy has something like Grind Me Down or Assassinate, if one of your characters or one of your squads gets down to 1 wound or 1 model left, you could load them back in the impulsor and like fly off and just sit on objective to try and deny some points. Or the impulsor could even charge something. I've seen that done just to lock some sort of big enemy up in combat and essentially maybe have them waste a turn. If, for example, if they had like a dreadnought that has a lot of guns on it, like the Mortis dreadnought that we have in our list, the impulsor could certainly charge that, and then next turn they have to waste all their las cannons or whatever shooting at the impulsor, who has this 4+ invulnerable save, and he has quite a high toughness as well, so it's not like he's going to be a chump to destroy. And then that essentially will tie something up in combat. So the impulsor has some strategies around here, but he doesn't, like, his job is done if he delivers Mephiston to get into something that Mephiston 100% wants to kill that's worth more points than him, and then if those assault intercessors get to like one of those less contested objectives and maybe steal that for a turn or two. So that is the job of the impulsor. So there's a few other stratagems that I haven't talked about that we could definitely use just to, because you've got 16 CP here, so Gene Rot Might is an interesting one. Use that with Assault Intercessors, or use it with Mephiston now that he's Primaris. Rolls of 6 will automatically do a wound, so that can be used in a situation where you really need to do some additional wounds. So if your Sanguinary Guard make it across into turn 2 and they're fairly alive, like 7 of them are 6 or 7, you know, you can play 1 for Hammer of Wrath, and then a roll of 5 or 6, any unit that they end up within 1 inch of after a charge will potentially take a mortal wound. And then 2 stratagems that we didn't talk about that will definitely help keep your Sanguinary Guard alive is, if in turn 1 they are going to get shot by high powerful weapons, or high strength weapons, sorry, you would want to use Transhuman Physiology on them so that they're only getting wounded on 4+. This cuts down if they're getting hit by some of the sort of Meltas or las cannons or whatever. And then if you do end up in close combat with the Sanguinary Guard, you can actually pay 1 again for Visage of the Damned and make them a -1 to hit. So there's a few ways, if you're just wanting to use those Sanguinary Guard to essentially protect the other units, which we kind of do, because if we've got Dante hitting, we've got Astaroth hitting, and we've got the 2 Banner Bearers hitting, and you know, ideally when you start removing Sanguinary Guard for the board, you keep some heavy hitters, like keep the axes and keep this Power Fists for close combat, then that's probably absolutely fine. And then when you get deep into the game and the board is much more open, then that's when 2 CP for Upon Wings of Fire and maybe another 2 CP for the Descent of the Angels to almost like guarantee whatever strong unit you've got left can relocate anywhere in the battlefield and make the charge. Something like Dante, if he's still near full health, jump him somewhere else in the board, free up an objective from a troops, or kill a character for Assassinate. That sort of thing can really help win the game, or just demoralise the opponent at the end of the game. So yeah, quite a lot to take in. I guess I've played about 10 games of 9th edition now. I'm super excited about the new codex. I'm hoping that it's going to change some things, but right now, this is my list. I think it's very strong. If you have any suggestions, or if you don't like anything, leave me a comment below and tell me why and what you would change, or do you run something similar? Really interested to see. And then, I mean, I guess literally 1 week after this comes out, we'll be looking at the new codex. So keep the discussion going here on the channel. I'm always reading all your and replying to all your comments. So thanks so much for the support. So with the new rules and codex right on the horizon, it's an exciting time to be a Blood Angel. Last edition we got Primaris Mephiston. What Primaris guys are we getting this edition? I guarantee it's going to be at least 1, I would like to see Dante, but I guess only time will tell. Thank you for supporting the channel, and until next time, by the blood are we made. Peace.